And the last thing that we will do in our timer video series is to use a button instead of hitting the G key to reset or to start our timer. So I'm going to create a UI button. Where are you? There you go, button here. And just the same as before, we have this UI element that pops up in the middle of our screen. So we can position it off to the side. We can maybe put it like 10 over, right? So now they all have the same amount of padding, very nice. The button script down here has a couple things. So these are the colors that it will change to if you are kind of clicking on the button. If you decide to use sprites, we'll go over that in the next video, you can change it to sprite swap instead of just colors. And then this is where we will be dealing with what happens when we actually click on the button. So what this needs is a function to run. So let's create a function that we can call when we click on the button that does all the stuff that's happening when we hit the G key right now. So if I go back to my script, all of this stuff, basically when we hit the G key, timer started equals true. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to create my own function. So important note, take note of your curly brackets here. I have some text that's commented out at the bottom, but this curly bracket down here, this is the end of my update function. So I'm just going to go below my update, but ahead of the last curly bracket that's kind of closing out this part of the script. And I'm going to make a public void that's called start timer. So I'm making a public function for us to use. And I wanted to do the exact same thing. So timer started equals true. So this is all that this button is going to do. Now I need to hook the button up to run this function every time when I click it. So if I go to Unity, works a little bit differently than the text or the slider. We're not accessing the button in our script. We are telling the button about this function. So on the button, I'm going to scroll down to the on-click section. I'm going to, right now it says nothing happens when you click it, so I'm going to hit the little plus button. And basically what we need to do is we know that we have a script that has a public function in it that we want to call. This script is on the UI manager. Like I mentioned before, this script can be in different places. So you could have it on an object. You could put it on the canvas if you wanted to. It just needs a place to live in the scene. So the button needs to know what object has that script on it. So our UI manager has the change text script on it. So I'm going to drag and drop my UI manager into this spot. Whatever object has the script with the public function that you want the button to run, drag and drop that object into this spot right here. Then in your drop-down menu, we go down, we find the name of our script, so change text is the name of our script. And then in our change text menu, we're going to go down until we find the name of the function that we created, which is start timer. Now I know that this looks a little bit weird, but that's just what it is. So it's the script, change text script that is on our UI manager, call the start timer function. Now remember, it has to be public for it to show up in this list. So if you didn't make it public, you should do that. So if I hit play, if I click my button, it's going to start the timer. All right. Okay, there we go. One thing that I forgot to mention is that how do you change what the button is saying? Right now it just says button. So underneath the button, there is a text element, and this is what the button is displaying. So we can make this say anything we want. And we can use a script to change what this text is saying, just like we saw in the other videos. It's the exact same thing, but it's just displaying what the button says. Okay, that's it.